Yeah, me neither. I don't like 3D games in general. I'm a 2D guy. So no. Yeah. Alright.
So you think you know Wix, but do you really? First up, we've got Shake Video.
You said the enemy is real. What did you mean by that?
They don't want to see us unified, because once we unify and we realize the enemy isn't as powerful as they think they are, their power comes from a place of facade. Their power comes from a place of convincing you they're stronger than you. 99% of the time people fall for that. It's manipulative, it's deceptive, it's dark. They've been around for a while. They're just getting more and more powerful and creative to use the tools that they have accessible to them today that maybe they didn't have 20, 30 years ago.
Patrick Bet-David, welcome to Triggernometry.
It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to be here because we're on your set, so thank you first of all for hosting us.
Anytime.
Listen, last time we spoke, we were having a private conversation. I hope you don't mind me revealing this, but you said something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I don't know what you meant, so tell me what you meant. You said, the enemy is real. What did you mean by that?
Is this one our private Zoom that we have?
Yes.
Okay, so the enemy is real. The enemy is real that's trying to find a way to gaslight, confuse, and divide the people that should get along. And, you know, when I was running an insurance company and I left a former company, guys would come to me over a span of years and they would say, when I was leaving, compliance said the following thing to me. So what I tell you, you can go anywhere, we won't sue you. But if you go one place, we'll sue you. And that one place is going with you. Why is that? They would ask me. I said, well, because when you're leaving somewhere, the marketplace is going to want as many powerful people divided away as possible. They don't want to see us unified. Because once we unify and we realize the enemy isn't as powerful as they think they are, their power comes from a place of facade. Their power comes from a place of convincing you they're stronger than you. And 99% of the time people fall for that. It's manipulative, it's deceptive, it's dark. And yeah, the enemy is very real and they're not going away. They've been around for a while. They're just getting more and more powerful and creative to use the tools that they have accessible to them today that maybe they didn't have 20, 30 years ago.
But who is it? Who are you talking about?
There's a lot of different directions you can go with this. It's anybody who thinks they know what's best for us, that they don't want to give up the control and the power to guys like us. For example, so you can go politics. So currency is in different ways, right? When we think about currency, we don't just think about, first thing that comes on currency, the dollar, the euro, the this. No, that's one currency, which is money, right? The other currency is what? Political power, control. The other currency is what? Fame, attention. There's many different currencies that we're dealing with, okay? The money currency people are what? It's like actually the most honest one, because it's what? Hey man, I'm making money, don't mess with my money. Simple, but you know that's a very powerful currency. The political one is the darkest one because there is no measurement. At least with money you can say, I'm worth 1.2 billion, I'm worth 600 million, I'm worth 2.8 billion, I'm worth 188 billion, I'm worth 6.8 million. There is an actual way to measure success. Politics, there isn't. How do you measure political success? How do you measure political clout or control or influence? You can't. How do you measure the power of Clinton's? Give me a score on it. There isn't anything like that. How do you measure Soros's political clout that now his son is taking over? Financially, you can say he's worth 7 billion. Financially, you can say he's given $32 billion to whatever Open Society Foundation, whatever those organizations are since the 90s, early 90s. But politically, what is that, right? There's no measurement. So it's darker, deceptive, uglier, control, the country club card that I get to get away with whatever I want to do, impose my power. And then you have the fame part. I still need to be seen. I'm popular, I'm cool when I'm going out there. On the currency part, I'll give you a little bit more specific too, if you just want like a case study. So do you know how big the oil industry is worldwide? $5 trillion. Are you familiar with the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951? So in 1951, they came up with this concept called the Invention Secrecy Act, which means the government and any agencies that they choose, if they feel any invention could potentially cause economic, discourse or any kind of negative attention to the economy, they can choose to take that patent away from you and not do anything with it. If you've never looked at this, this is something everybody must look at. Go Google Invention Secrecy Act of 1951. Now, what will you find in this Invention Secrecy Act of 1951? Over 6,000 patents, okay? So you come out with it. I simply come to you and say, hey, congratulations, this is a very important patent. You can't make money with this. We're gonna give you 75% of what we think this is worth. If we think this patent's worth $1 million, here's $750,000. If you sell this to any other country, anywhere else, and we find out about it, you go into jail for whatever term we want to give you, okay? So now, let's look at the Invention Secrecy Act. When you look at this, and you can go look at this even deeply in this documentary called Lost Century by Stephen Greer, a fantastic documentary to watch, you'll notice in the last 100 years, guys have invented cars to drive 200 miles on 1 gallon of water, okay? They've invented mechanisms or engines or motors to go 217 miles on gasoline. They've found ways to create power from earth. There's so many different ways that people created inventions that would get cars to drive a lot more miles where you don't need to buy as much gas. Well, one of the times, one of these patents was tested on a V8 Ford car. They go to Ford. They test it on the V8 engine. Ford says, no, this works. We can potentially do 200 plus miles per gallon. The next day, collapse in the oil prices in the US because word got out. But in many cases, these guys that created these patents, Shell would come out and say, hey, we love your patent, we'd like to buy it from you. Here's 25 million bucks. And you sell it to me, and then what happens? I keep the patent, never release it to the public. They got 6,000 patents that America controls. So the people of power in the oil industry that has lobbyists, controls politicians, these guys are the easiest people to buy. They buy them at nothing, $10,000 a senator at times, $100,000 a congressman. Many cases you can buy these guys. So they fear of losing power, buy them, keep them famous to go to the parties that they want and be on the TV shows. Their stomach is filled. But a lot of these guys that are worried about a $5 trillion industry being disrupted by an invention of a new guy, we can't do that. Let's write up a new bill. And by the way, you know the guy that wrote the bill in 1951? You know what happened to him in 1954 or 52? He ran as the vice president ticket in the US. He failed, but he ran. He was a VP nominee for the Democratic side. And that one bill that they put in there would have prevented so many different creative minds of coming up with an invention that would have saved people so much money and gas and all this other stuff. But a $5 trillion industry could split in half overnight. It's going to piss off a lot of different people. So the community day, the people on the back that are wanting to control, they're not just driven by money. They come in many different faces, and we got to pay attention to it.
Does that make you, the way you see the world, quite anti-establishment, Patrick? That you have a natural distrust of big corporations, billionaires, etc.?
I am a pro-capitalistic guy, okay? Pro. And the way I look at it is in the following way. When I'm running my business in the insurance industry, I'm selling a product. And my job every 90 days, I had a handful of people that I would call, and I would say, hey, these are like the heavyweight guys of the insurance industry. Very well known, carry a lot of weight. I say, so is anything major going on with regulation that's coming down from Elizabeth Warren or anybody in, Department of Insurance? Yeah, let me tell you what they're working on. They're working on the DOL, Department of Labor, such and such, 1099, W-2. They're working on this product that they want to turn into a securities product. Oh, shoot, if they do that, what are we going to do? Da-da-da-da-da. So we had to always be ready. If they turn this product that I'm selling right now with 1 license, now I need 3 licenses to sell this product. That's going to take my guys an additional 90 days to 120 days to get licensed. That lowers my business by growing at 28% per year to 16% per year. How am I going to make up that additional 12% to still be able to grow exponentially, right? Okay. So it's my job to constantly proactive and see what's taking place. If all of a sudden life expectancy goes from 68 years old to 79 years old to 99 years old, some people may say, why do I need a term insurance? But why do I need a... These are all things that could potentially be taking place. And I have to look at, well, if that does happen, well, that's cost of insurance goes down. So it's not going to be the same because that's all math. So in the area where somebody may disrupt your business at any given day, that's capitalism. That's free market. If somebody does it better than you and they have a strategy that's better than yours, hey man, you're going out of business. It's that simple. Newspapers, Borders, Oh, Borders will never go out of business. This guy, people going to buy books on Amazon? Are you out of your mind? He's delusional. He has no clue what he's talking about. Borders out of business. So many Barnes and Noble closing down. All these bookstore shop closing down. The fear of capitalism, when we look at capitalism, and we understand that the whole basis of capitalism is 4 things. Freedom to buy whatever you want to buy. Freedom to sell whatever you want to buy legally, right? That's under the law. Freedom to buy, freedom to sell, freedom to fail, and freedom to create. Like you can create something and build it, right? So, but the part that people fear is what?
The fail.
The fail. But that's capitalism. Without it, you don't have capitalism. So some of these bigger guys that are golfing 6 days a week, that are no longer working the 12, 14-hour days they used to work, and now they're just working a couple hours a day, they fear disruption, right? So I'm always worried about the establishment guys that are no longer in the game, no longer engaged, trying to control what they worked for 20, 30 years ago. That's no problem. But you can't do it in a way where the new guy can't come and put you out of business if they come out with a product that's better for the consumer, even if that means I'm losing, even if that means that you're losing, right? Somebody could have a show right now and they're killing it. You guys are coming up. You've been on the road for 2 months. You got a family. That means you're traveling with your family. You're here, you're Mexico, you're LA, you're this, you're that. If all of a sudden somebody says, well, that's not fair. You know what, my friends at YouTube, I need you to give this channel 3 strikes and take them down. What are you afraid of? Maybe they're better than you. Maybe you're better at what you're doing. Maybe they need to be recognized for going 2 months on the road and interviewing people. Instead, you're sitting there saying, well, they're not coming to me. Well, I asked them to come to me, but they don't want to come to me. No, these guys are going to them. That's the part that I'm concerned about the guys that don't want to do the legwork that you're doing, and they want to protect it. And then the other part is also that one day you guys will be there. Are you going to still do the legwork? Are you like, you're now, say you're killing it, you got 10 million subs, you're getting 1 billion views a month. Wow, you know, they need to come to me. Then you're now the establishment YouTubers. You're the establishment podcasters. The concept of establishment and anti-establishment belongs everywhere. But yeah, the guys that are establishment that are afraid of losing everything without wanting to do the work, and the way they compete is by putting everybody else out of business with making the barrier to entry tougher. Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Because there's a lot of people who actually share that, who would say, look, I like capitalism, but the game is rigged, and they would put example of banks. Banks fail and then get bailed out continually. And they go, well, I have a small business. If I fail, I fail. Why is it they get bailed out? And we saw during COVID, for example, where small mom and pop businesses had to shut and then multinational corporations were allowed to continue.
But what's your point? Is your point that that's the reason why people are not starting businesses?
No, my point is that that's why a lot of people are suspicious of capitalism. And a lot of people say that the system doesn't work for them.
Totally get it. Fair enough. So let me give you my rebuttal to that. So I'm at Bible study in Pasadena in 2003, okay? I'm going to this Bible study in Pasadena, Pasnas. This guy, Mono, is the pastor, and I'm an atheist. 25 years I've been an atheist. Well, why are you an atheist? God really exists. Do you see how many people died in Iran? I lived in Iran. We're getting bombed left and right. The parks I used to go to, kids died. That kid deserved to die, and I'm having this debate with the pastor. And then he eventually tells me, you're judging your relationship with God horizontally, not in a vertical way. What do you mean? If you base your faith on other human beings, you will be disappointed. Because man will let you down. Just like you've let people down, I've let people down, we're gonna let each other down. Because we're what? We're sinners, we're man, we screw up, we act like we got everything under control, we don't, right? He says, but if you can rely, that's if somebody has faith. I have faith, I'm relying this way. I'm not relying on my faith based on how good you're gonna treat me. I'm delusional,
PBD.
You're not God. He is, right? Okay. Capitalism is purely a mathematical system and an economical system that allows for the best ideas ran by the best folks with character, drive,
capitalism,
intention, hard work, strategy to win, right? Who screws up capitalism? Not capitalism. Lobbyists, politicians, bullies, congressmen who are for sale, senators who are for sale, former guys that made their money that are no longer willing to do the work. But that's not the blame of the economical system of capitalism. That's the blame of a man based on greed, based on insecurities, based on theft, based on compliance based on all that stuff. We can't pinpoint on the system. We can't pinpoint it on criminals. We can pinpoint it on people that are abusing the system, but not the actual economical system called capitalism.
Patrick, you mentioned Iran. Tell us your story a little bit, because you've had a fascinating life story in terms of where you come from, what you've done in your life, etc. Tell us your life story.
Born and raised in Iran. I was born October 1878. Peak of the revolution in Iran, like all the stuff you're seeing going on in Iran right now with Raisi. You know, I'm living there, getting bombed on left and right between, you know, when Iran and Iraq go to war over that 8-year period, 500,000 people. I'm living there. I'm living in the capital. And we constantly try to escape. We'd go to Bandar Pahlavi, which is like north, because my grandparents were from there. They bombed Rasht. We'd go to Karaj. They would bomb Karaj. Everywhere we went, we'd keep getting bombed. So, I mean, essentially, when I'm living there and I'm going through this whole war, I'm like, you know, I don't know what this thing is all about, with the war going on between Iran and Iraq. Not pretty. Khomeini dies, just like this guy Raisi just died. Khomeini dies, absolute insanity in the streets of Iran. I'm in the school, Gulbenkian, 5th grade. I can't find my parents. We don't have phones. Everyone's panicking. Parents are trying to find their kids. Eventually, my parents come, they get me. We go to the house. My mom's like, I'm done. Looks at my dad. We're escaping Iran. Okay, do whatever you want to do. I'll sell everything here. We go to Germany. We live at a refugee camp in Erlangen, near Nuremberg, for a year and a half. And then my parents get a divorce. Then we eventually, November 28, 1990, come here to the States. And I go to school in Glendale, California. I joined the Army afterwards. I'm a 1.8 GPA guy. I don't know if you guys in UK are GPA, but I wasn't a good student except for math.
So it's out of 5. So 1.8 is not good, right?
It's horrible.
Yeah,
1.8 is horrible.
I was being diplomatic, Patrick.
No, that's what it is. It's horrible. So, but when it came down to math, you couldn't force me to miss a day of class. I love numbers. So I go to the Army, I get out, I want to be a bodybuilder, I want to be a governor, I'm kind of trying to be the next Middle Eastern Arnold. And then I get into the financial industry, I meet a girl, Janvier, introduce me to Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter. I get my Series 766, all the stocks, all the licenses to sell insurance, stocks, futures, commodities, get into the business. Then I go to Transamerica, then I become a chairman with those guys. Then eventually I start my own company, October of 09, September, October of 09. And we took one office with 66 insurance agents to 50,000 agents. We sold it nearly 2 years ago for very nice multi 9-figure exit, life-changing type of money. And then while I'm part-time building a YouTube channel on the back end, turns into a consulting firm, product development division. We consult right now for nearly 5,000 businesses from 60 plus countries that we do engagements on various types of things, raising money, restructuring, comp plan, anyways, HR, recruiting, hiring, all that stuff. And then podcast, what it's turned into today. We own this building. We turned this into a comedy club and cigar lounge. We're getting a liquor license. We got 2 bars here. We'll be entertaining folks. We do town halls here, debates here, a bunch of things here. We bought the other building down the street, and, you know, all of that gradually turned into what it is today.
Well, what you're doing now is you're building a media empire. At least that's the public-facing aspect of what you're doing. What's your interest in media? What are you trying to do?
My interest is in media. 16 years, but I'll give you an idea why it is and why it isn't. 16 years ago, my pastor gave a message about 7 mountains to climb. And one of the hardest mountains to climb in the world is media. But that is the most important, because if you really want to control the narrative and protect something, it's going to come down to media. You want to tell a story, it happens with movies, shows, documentaries. You know, if you got something you want to inject in other people to kind of debate, process, question, say, I don't agree with this, I agree with this. It's through media, right? On the other side, you know, I got 4 kids. I would like to later on in life have the opportunity for these guys to want to somehow be in business with me, my family, our family. So I want to be able to have a wider range of opportunities in the holding company, that if you want to be a lawyer, great, media, movie, real estate, whatever you want to do, the holding company allows you to have a place for it. So that's that part. And then the other part is that the army we're building, everybody's building an army. The army we're building is, we take a $10 million a year business, and through the strategies that we have, we help you go into a $68 million a year business. Whether we rearrange the comp, help you with the right people to hire, help you become a tech-enabled business, all these things that we're doing behind closed doors. Eventually, over the next 20 years, all these businesses we're consulting for collectively, it's a lot of influence. And these are not people from America, they're from around the world. We're putting an event together in Palm Beach, September. We'll have 10,000 people at this event, coming from all over the place, 180 plus industries. These guys are a small army that we're building. So part of it is media, part of it is influence, but we're doing it through the route of business, consulting, product development, and then at the same time, selling the philosophies of capitalism, free enterprise, free market, you know, all the other things that we have in place.
So what's the why? Why are you doing all of that?
I don't like bullies. I've never liked them. I'm a very friendly guy. I will sit there and tell jokes, and we can be sarcastic and talk sports, talk politics, talk movies, talk shop, but I don't do well with bullies. I just don't. And I think there's...
Why is that?
I just don't do well with bullies. As a kid growing up, you know, my parents, when they got a divorce and they were kind of going through it, each side would say to me, while the other one wasn't there, like, let's just say if I'm my mom's family and they're Armenian, they would say, oh, Patrika Soria, Transitsa, Inka Bet Davida. Patrick is a Syrian. He's one of those guys. He's a Bet David. Couldn't stand it. And then the other side would say, Patrick Aramnaila, Aramnaila. Patrick's Armenian. He's one of these guys. He's a Bogosian. Couldn't stand it. So at a young age, I told him one time, and my mom and dad would know this. I told both families. I said, you guys don't matter to me, just so you know that. I'm only here with you because I love my dad. Okay, so he's my number one. And I told my mom's family, I'm only here because of my mom. Or else you guys don't matter to me. It's my mom, it's my dad, it's my sister. That's it. You're secondary. So if you want to have a relationship with me, don't pin me against my mom and dad. We're going to have a problem. And you will never see me again because I don't have any interest in seeing you if you're going to do that. And I said this very early on as a kid. So that was a form of bullying. And a lot of relatives fell for it. And, you know, as you age and you kind of see it happen in different places, and then you kind of see the writing on the wall of what a profile of a bully is, then you kind of learn how to wrestle with a bully. And then, you know, once you learn that, and that's a skill set that you have, if you don't use that skill set later on in life, you know, what are you doing? You're not using the God-given abilities that he gave you and the experiences. I think today the world is filled with many bullies in many industries, and some people can't speak on their behalf, and other people, if they have the ability to do it, I think it's your responsibility to do it. At 28 years old, I wanted to find out what my pillar was. Did I want to be a billionaire? Did I want to be a millionaire? Was it fame? Was it accolades? Was it, oh, he's the best financial advisor? What was it? Like, what do you want to be? Was it being a pastor? What are you going for? Is it father? Is it husband? What is it? Simplify. Leader amongst leaders. It's going to take 40, 50, 60 years to have that reputation. But that's what I'm solving for. And that is a very hard job and responsibility you put on yourself. But if you think you're a leader amongst leaders, somebody's being bullied, you can't sit on the sidelines. You got to do something about it.
And do you find yourself worried at the place our society is in, Patrick? Does that motivate you? We'll be back with our guest in a minute. But first,
last year, I was introduced to Monetary Metals, a game-changing platform that offers a unique approach.
PBD, that's future looks bright. Everything's going to be great, phenomenal. We're going to take over the world. It's going to be awesome. Freedom, dreams, all this stuff. On this side is the paranoid guy. It's like, be careful, be ready. Something could happen. What if it does? If it does, we got to do this. So that's the balance. You know, as an entrepreneur, you're always like, you have to be super optimistic that we can build this company. But if you're not paranoid, you're going to run out of money. So the balance of being a constant startup, entrepreneur, founder, that mindset kind of applies to life as well, at least for me.
And if you apply that mindset to the United States,
yeah,
would you be optimistic or pessimistic if that was your company?
Part of me is very optimistic because this is the greatest country in the world. And no country in the world has ever produced better products, better innovation, better companies that have impacted other countries in the world, ideas that others are duplicating, meaning a lot of people came up with socialism, a lot of people had communism, okay? Those died out, okay? Socialism is still around, and a lot of people are trying to make it socialism, but communism was a failure. So many tried it. Cuba's still trying it. Absolute failure. Russia, failure. You have Reagan going against Gorbachev. Gorbachev is selling communism. This guy's selling capitalism. Who baptized who? Reagan baptized him. Now Russia realized if we kind of want to have some money to have strong weapons, to have a thriving economy. Guess what we got to do? We need to have a little bit of capitalism in it. So I think America has led the way in the shortest span. It's kind of like saying the following. Imagine if you guys start a YouTube channel, okay? And people have been doing YouTube channels for 2,000 years, okay? One of the YouTube channels called China. The other YouTube channel is called, Iran, Persia. The other one's called USSR, whatever you want to call it, right? And then there's this new YouTube channel starts off on July 4th of 1776. Very shortly, they have the biggest YouTube channel in the world with better content that everybody else is now watching. What does that say? They have better ideas in place. They started with zero, kind of like you guys did. How did they do it? They just simply didn't want to be taxed 3% for tea that they were bitching about. Now today, America's like willing to say yes to anything to be taxed, right? So the fire that these guys had was a beautiful thing. Now on this side, the threat. This is the problem with this side. Did you guys ever go to school with a snobby kid that came from a rich family?
Yeah.
Yep.
What'd you think about that kid? You probably still remember his name.
I do.
Okay, I do too, right? Why didn't we like this kid? Because he was entitled.
It was unearned.
It was unearned. The attitude, like just the way they looked at us, it's like, they gave us a certain vibe and nobody liked that. Well, unfortunately, the people in America today are those unearned, spoiled little brats from a very, very wealthy family that now think they can use the money to do whatever they want, and they've never worked for that money. They don't have the founder's mentality. They don't have the startup mentality. They don't have that. These politicians that they're spending money left and right like it's not a big deal. Send 200 billion here, send 2 trillion here, let's print another 2 trillion. So the part is greatest family, greatest legacy, proven track record, did it better than anybody else in the world, filled with spoiled kids that want to spend that wealth at all cost and risk it all. My fear is these guys having control of what to do with this money. If they have control of it, we can go bankrupt. But if some of these guys that are better leaders from this side that have the founder's mentality, that typically want to be left alone, they don't want to be no president. They don't want to be a governor. They don't want to go into office. They don't want to do any of that stuff. They just want to live their lives. We kind of need some of them to be like, look, I know you don't want this job. You got to give 8 years. Like, I know you don't want to do this. You got to go get 4 years. I don't want to do it. Totally get it. You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for the country. So we need you to kind of come on this side a little bit and decide to nominate yourself and fight your own way because these guys are screwing it up. That's what needs to happen. Some of the people that don't want the job need to do the job. It's like kids. The people that should have 10 kids are having 1. The people that should have 0 kids are having 6.
I used to be a teacher. Amen.
So there you go. So you see the difference, right? So the ones with 6 kids, like, I don't even know why you're still pregnant. You got another one? Yes. What are you going to do with this? You don't even have the money to take him, but the government's going to give me $600. We don't want you having more. That kid's not going to have a father. What are we doing here, right? But the ones that are like responsible, teach the right values, well, I don't want to have more than 1. We're enjoying ourselves. No, you got to have 3 or 4. So that's the same emphasis where there's got to be a part of us where we have to commit to public service even when we don't want to do it.
But Patrick, you're a logical guy. You're a smart guy. Look at the way that space is. Like people say to me, would you be interested in politics? I'm like, God, no. You'd be insane. You get paid way less than you make anywhere else. You get treated like shit. You get misrepresented and lied about all the time. They drag your family through dirt, and they call you every name under the sun. Well, so why would a sane person choose to do that?
No, a guy like you needs to run. Because a guy like you goes into Oxford. Where were you at?
Oxford Union.
Okay,
yeah.
You go there and you school everybody and you walk away with them still smiling and liking you. How many people can do that? You know a lot of guys.
Yeah.
How many people can do what he does, what he did that day? Out of 100, how many can do it? Not that many.
No.
I don't even know if it's 1. Out of 1,000, probably 1 or 2 can do it. So you got that kind of a talent and you don't want to use it for that because you're going to hold them accountable and challenge them. I think I flew to LA and I went to this person's place. I won't say his name because it's a private conversation. But I went to his place and I sat across from him. This guy's 20 years my senior. And he says, so what's your outcome of the meeting? I'm here because I think you need to run for governor. What? I think you need to run for governor. What do you mean? You need to run for governor. And you had to see his body language. What happened to it? He was like, what? Shaking, nervous. You know, then we had dinner with his wife, and his wife brought up the conversation that I brought up to him, and I said, I think you need to run. And then she's like, he's been talking about it ever since, and you really shook him that day, and it's really got him thinking and praying and all this stuff. Yeah, that's what needs to happen. We need to get certain people that don't want to do it to do the job. It's not supposed to be pretty. It's not supposed to be, like, for example, right now, you know, I got guys that say, why are you doing this? You made the money. What are you doing? Why are you talking politics? You don't need to talk politics. Why are you putting yourself on the line like this? Why are you doing this? I'm supposed to do it because let's just say if I'm born and raised in Iran and I'm 45 years old in Iran, you would never know who I am. You wouldn't know who I am. Say I was born in Cuba. You would never know who I am. You know in how many countries they wouldn't know who I am? So let me get this straight. In America, you know me because of me being special? Maybe because you know me because America's system is great, the technology is great, the environment is great, and I was able to meet some of the best people that were able to get me going, and with the help of God, introduce me to the right people. Now you know who I am to the point where you want to sit down and have a conversation with me. Does that make me that special? Did I forget what communities and individuals and crises and challenges and experiences helped me become me? Am I that quick to forget about? Is that it? So it's all my credit. Oh, I did it. I'm the guy. I'm so special. No. So I think that part where when we say it's tough, it's annoying, it's challenging, it's this, it's that. Yeah, of course, it's supposed to be. And you're the right guy for it. Congratulations. You're qualified. And what do you want me to say? You want me to sit there and say, I feel bad for you? No. There are certain people that are given certain responsibilities and certain talents that, and by the way, I'm not telling you, you better do it or else. This is a decision you got to make with your wife, with your God, with prayer, yourself, your kids, the people you respect. But just the fact that you're now thinking about it.
Oh, I'm not thinking about it. I'm in a much better place for doing what I'm doing now.
I totally get it. I think you're making an impact. But all I'm saying to you is, even a guy like you, if a guy like you gets to a place and says, you know what? I'm willing to give 4 years. Whether you're a Bush or a Kennedy, you read their family's structure and values and principles. You know what both of them have in common? Both families, at one point, say after you make your money, after you've had enough money to retire you, your wife, and your kids, you need to give back to your country. How do you do that? Nonprofit, politics, church, right? 3 different ways. But that's a form of public service, politics being one of the 3.
Patrick, do you think part of the problem is, so you're from Iran.
Yep.
You've seen the other side.
Yep.
Konstantin is from Russia. My mum's Venezuelan. I've seen the other side as well. But a lot of people who grew up in this society haven't seen the other side. And do you think that your point of view comes from the fact that you've experienced the horrors of a totalitarian regime, revolution, being in a refugee camp, so you appreciate this far more than somebody who grew up in this society would?
Maybe that's what it is. You know, Russia, Venezuela, Iran. Pretty wild when you think about that.
Yeah.
Right? Most oil in the world, beautiful people, amazing people. And now you got a guy named Maduro that's doing what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Russia, with the amount of history they have with sports, writing, philosophy, and now, you know, I mean, maybe in a better place than where they were 40 years ago, 50 years ago, but still. Yeah, I think that is an optic that we have, a lens that maybe others don't have, that we have access to, right? You know, but it's also just as much noble if a guy that came in an environment that maybe wasn't as chaotic, and that person says, I want to contribute in my own way, and I want to use what's been given to me, and I'm still wanting to give back. One doesn't need to be from Venezuela, Russia, or Iran to have that chaotic life to tap into and say, this is why because it's also a way of saying, you know, my life experiences have given me an edge over you to do X, Y, Z. Maybe. I just think it's, you know, a man, a woman, you know, you're by yourself, I'm in Dallas this week, and I give one of my tougher talks I give to my leaders. And wasn't the nicest conversation that I had with them. One of the conversations I had with them is, some of these guys are making so much money that now it's about what's the next cool 3 surgeries to do. Well, I'm getting a such and such tuck. I don't even know the amount of surgeries they got. Nowadays, there's so many different ways. I mean, we live in a vain society. I live in Miami, Florida, very vain. Dallas, very vain. LA, very vain. I don't know how it is over there. Here, it's very vain. Mm-hmm. It's all about how you look, and every other day, new surgeries come out. So, one of the offices and organizations, it's a lot about this. Hey, honey, you got to do this to look good for this. Hey, you got to do this to... Not a fan of that. If my wife came home and she's working in your office, and that's the conversation being had with some of the girls because they went out to dinner, I'm not okay with that, okay? And my job is to make my wife happy. My wife's job is to make me happy. If somebody thinks that's too traditional for you, tune out and go watch something else. I'm not interested in your opinion. But are you married?
No.
Are you married? Your job, does your wife make you happy?
Yep.
Do you make your wife happy?
I try.
That's all I care about. And that's all needs to be the case, right? So I sat down and I said, guys, to the same people that are kind of imposing this on other people, I said to them, it's a lot of you guys that are imposing all these different surgeries to do that cost $60,000, $30,000. You guys are the same people that didn't want to take the vaccine. Yeah, but you also didn't take the vaccine. No, I know I didn't take the vaccine. I didn't take the vaccine. My wife didn't, my kids didn't. My dad did, and he's a super conservative guy, and he took the boosters. So did my nanny. I said, but if you remember when you guys were going through the vaccine debate, I told everybody, the only thing I care about is this. If you think taking the vaccine is the right decision for you and your family, salute. If you think taking a vaccine isn't the right decision for you and your family, salute. But whose decision is it? Yours. Now, we live in America, slightly different in Europe because you guys were sometimes forced to go through it or else you couldn't travel, right? Whatever the passport you had to go to show the fact that you're vaccinated. So for you guys are under a dictatorship. Maybe I can't say that, but essentially,
you can say that.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
In that respect, it was starting to get radical.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not from that school of thought. I'm from the school of thought of, hey, you want to do it? Great. You don't want to do it? Great. So going back to, the question you're asking, I am more from a place of us not getting so distracted when we make money and all of a sudden we forget about what happened to us, where we can come back and have some kind of public service and contribute, but it needs to be at your level.
And because what we're talking about here is the idea of America. And actually, it's the thing that I love most about America, is that the idea of the American dream, the possibilities, the fact that you can come here, you can work hard, and you can make it, which is unique. Few other countries have that particular ideology. My concern is, Patrick, I'm starting to see quite a few people not buy into the idea of America. And America is only as strong as the people who buy into the idea. That is my concern. And
it's a valid concern. But that's not how the richest guy in America feels, right? Guy named Elon. He doesn't feel that way. He was so famous, so rich, that he was the modern day Iron Man, that he was even in the movie where Robert Downey Jr. goes and says hello to Elon because everybody said that's the modern day Iron Man. Every beautiful girl, that was in Hollywood pretty much either wanted to be with him or was with him or was probably with him and we don't even know about it. I mean, this is Elon Musk. He's lived an incredible life. He's got 9 or 10 kids. With all this stuff that's going on, you choose to go buy a company for $44 billion? For what? For freedom of speech? And you put yourself through the mess and what? The valuation drops some 75%. I don't know what it's worth today, $11 billion, $12 billion, give or take whatever the number they claim it is. Maybe it's $20 billion. Why is he doing it? Why is he the most hated guy? And why is he now, when you're getting the EV summit going on in DC, you invite everybody except this guy. So you don't invite the guy that created all the, the battery and all this stuff. That's the guy you don't invite. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Well, guess what? The average guy who's a fan of his doesn't support what the White House did and what the government did. I think there's a lot of guys like Elon around and they come in different shapes and sizes. Avengers, they have different kind of powers and methods of saving the world and essentially saving certain ideas. I think they're all over the place. But I think the ones, to your point, there are a lot of them that don't want the responsibility and pressure of being vocal. I think those are the ones that need to kind of be like, I got to kind of get out there and do a little bit more my own way. The days of being private and quiet 30 years ago and everybody kind of was rich, the people that were rich and they didn't want people to know. If you're rich today, people know you're rich. You can no longer hide today. And Google tells us how rich you are and how much money you got. Today, it's those people that are typically who have been quiet are waking up, which is all a good sign. Complainers, there's always been more complainers than doers. That's not going away. There's always been more complainers than doers. You got 4 kids, you tell them to make the bed, one of them makes the bed, the other 3 are like, oh, but give me a break. But the one guy's the leader of the other 3. There's always going to be a community that's going to complain, one that's going to be the leader. That's nothing new. Numbers haven't changed.
Patrick, and speaking of being a leader, one of the things with the media company, I want to talk a little bit about the stuff you're doing with media. You've made some interesting moves. By the way, when I did your podcast, I was very impressed. You have a great way of managing the team that you have. Everybody knows who everybody is. You're the clear leader, but you don't tread on people. You let people do their thing. It was very impressive. You've since a year ago, you took on Chris Cuomo. And I hear that you're looking potentially to hire Candace Owens. Is that true?
No, that's a rumor that's circulating. Candace and I are very close. We love what she has to say. But no, I mean, I made a public offer to Tucker. I'm not one that's going to be afraid to say I'm signing somebody. I'm not. If I'm going to sign Candace, you'll know about it.
Okay.
If I'm going to go out there and make a public offer and money being made, you'll know about it. We said $100 million to Tucker online and equity and all this stuff. And I'm going to be with him tomorrow, actually. It's so funny. I mean, they won't know tomorrow, as of today of tomorrow, not when this thing's going to be released, because I don't know when this is going to be released. But no, I think Candace is a once-in-a-generation type of a talent that gets the people who love her to follow her, but gets the people who hate her to follow her even more. You rarely get people like that. People like that are not that common. Tucker's obviously like that. Rogan's like that, but Rogan's loved and liked. Rogan's not a one that's feared. Rogan's loved and liked and respected. Rogan's not trying to get under your skin and create controversy. It's actually not him.
No.
He's a complete, he's the kind of guy you want as a friend, as an uncle, as a running mate. You're in war and battle buddy. You want a guy like that. But all these guys have different kind of strengths. But Cuomo, for me, was an interesting one because I got a lot of pushback and criticism for it. But why did I bring Cuomo? We're about to have Dave Smith and Cuomo do a live podcast together. Okay, who wins when that takes place? You know who wins? Not Dave and not Cuomo. This isn't about Dave or Cuomo winning. Who wins? The public wins. Who wins? The people who couldn't see their grandmother for those 3 years, and their 6-year-old granddaughter didn't see grandma before a handful of times, and grandmother died, and you stole those 3 beautiful years away from that granddaughter from 6 to 9. She was accustomed to seeing grandma once a week. Now she only saw her a couple times a year during COVID, and you shut it down. Those people, to find out exactly what the hell happened, win. Who loses? The institutions, CDC, World Health Organization, Fauci, any, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, any of these guys that gaslit and confused the hell out of a lot of people, those guys lose. So yeah, if Chris is willing to have the conversation with Dave, we're going to make a lot more controversial hires like that. We're going to make some hires where people are going to say, I knew it. I knew I could count on Patrick to hire the right people. And then next week, what a piece of I mean, that's how this thing works. But I'm good with both.
Sure, that makes sense. And what did you were quite openly critical of the Daily Wire and the way they treated Candace. What did you make of the way that she left?
I wasn't critical of the way they handled Candace. I was critical on the position you take, and yet you flip it, where to the world you said, what comes first? Let me unpack that. So I'm a fan of watching Ben, and I'm a fan of watching Candace. And I've had Jordan Peterson on. I've had him on 4 or 5 times, many times. Every time you're with Jordan Peterson, you kind of sit there. He's the easiest guy to interview.
Yeah.
He's 4 questions in 2 hours.
Yep.
That's Jordan. You ask, let her rip, right? He's like that. Sailors, like, there's a handful of people that are like that, right? Some people are like 60-second answers, 20-second answers, 40-second answers. He just goes. When all of a sudden you started hearing about, hey, you know, Christ is King, you know, Ben Shapiro in the small setting said what he said about, you know, what she said is not a travesty, but disgrace or something. He used some words like that about Candace in a smaller setting. Now, did he know it's being recorded? I don't know, but you're Ben Shapiro. Yeah, just anybody. At any time you're speaking, you have to know someone's recording you, right? Sometimes we forget, everybody does. But you just have to know you're being recorded. So we can talk about anything, but you can't question that as one of your talent. Yeah, very obvious. You can't touch the Jewish community, you can't talk about it. And that cost the person the job. Great. That's when I made the comments when I said the Daily Jewish Wire or the Daily Israeli Wire. I don't know if that's what you're asking about. I publicly said that multiple times. I'm not, you know, apologizing or changing my position. That's my position, what I said. That's where we know what Ben's ultimate is, okay? To me, I'm America first. I live in America. This is my number one priority. I'm raising my kids here. I'm from Iran, I'm Armenian, and I'm Assyrian. But if you tell me what country matters the most, America matters the most. I don't know if you asked him.
We did.
And what did he tell you?
Well, his argument is there's a couple of pieces to it. Number one, he says that Israel is not something he used to talk about a lot until it happened. And I think he sees Israel as an outpost of Western civilization in the Middle East, which I think is a reasonable point. And in terms of the Candace stuff, we didn't talk about that specifically with him. We talked about it with Andrew Clavin. But what Andrew said is that, and what I think is fair to say is this: if you one of the things we talked about with him is if you have a company in which there's an ideological viewpoint, which they have, right? They're a conservative media organization. So, you know, if Matt Walsh was to come out as pro-trans, they would fire Matt Walsh, is the point, right?
You're comparing Candace Owens saying Christ is King?
He is comparing, not me. But also, it's the words themselves.
No, you said.
I said that's what he said.
He said trans? They used the word specific
we
trans?
talked about this, I think.
But are you, no, this is very important.
Yeah.
It's very technical what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
So did he use the analogy?
No, I brought that up.
That's what I'm saying, if you're saying. So I'm going to isolate that with you,
Okay,
not him,
fine.
because that's you. But go ahead, make your point. Keep
So
going.
if the argument is they have a company ideology, they're
Yeah.
a conservative organization.
Sure.
That's what Clayton
sure,
was talking
yeah.
about. So if one of their presenters, one of their hosts, came out and said, I'm pro-trans or I'm pro-abortion or whatever, that person wouldn't continue to work at Daily Wire. So I don't remember the exact wording that Andrew used. We have an episode coming out about that before this one, so people can go and watch what he said. But it was something along the lines of, I'm not saying she's deeply anti-Semitic in her heart, but some of the things that she was saying either encourage people to be that way or something along those lines, right? So in other words, I think, from the Daily Wire's perspective, this is a misalignment with the core values of their organization, right? In the same way that being pro-trans or pro-abortion might be. That's their argument.
That's your opinion, or you're not, because you said
that
I
is
think.
my recollection of the conversation we had with Andrew.
Because when I say I think, that's kind of my opinion. So then I can rebuttal to your opinion on what you're saying instead of his. But yeah, I mean, listen, to be fair to Ben came out and said, we're a publisher. We're not a platform.
Right.
He's 100% right.
Yeah.
Of course you're a publisher. He said, we don't have to keep people here if we don't want to. Totally get it. But that position isn't necessarily an anti-conservative position. One would never say Candace is not conservative.
Yeah.
Candace is a conservative.
Yeah.
One would never say Candace is anti-freedom of speech, low taxes, small government. Candace is all conservative. No, and I believe right now, the last 4 years, it's been a kind of little bit of a weird climate
Patrick, may I interrupt? I just thought of something else that may be helpful
Go
here
for
as
it.
well, right? I think part of it is also there are people at the Daily Wire like Matt Walsh, who we just mentioned, who is anti the United States giving support to anybody, including Israel, including Ukraine, including everybody, who has no problem remaining at the Daily Wire. So I think the issue is the perception of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, sure. No,
Right.
that's a fair point.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm glad you did. So that's a fair point you're making with the position he's in. I think he does a great job, by the way. I think he's got his own unique way of communicating. No, look, Ben has made it clear one topic, but the market's never known this, that you can't question that. It's not like it's in the bylaws. If you work here, you can't make a comment about Israel or questioning Netanyahu or any of this stuff.
I don't think that's what it was. Because Matt Walsh is still there, right?
But I get that, but Matt Walsh didn't question it at the levels that she did. Matt Walsh didn't go out there and say, going against Shmuley and some of these other guys, having the debate that she was having and calling them out. And she was probably a little bit more vocal and antagonistic, but that's her style. When you have you talk about sports earlier, certain like Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green. You're either going to protect Draymond Green or you're not. You're either going to defend Conor McGregor, your name is Dana White, or you're not. You're either going to defend Dennis Rodman or you're not. Not everybody can handle players like this. It requires a certain level of coach to know how to work with a Rodman, a Conor McGregor, or a Draymond Green. They're not easy because they're in a way they view things in chaotic stuff here, and the creative juices are going all the time. But they may have an element of they're a diva. Yeah, maybe, but that comes with the territory. They also get a lot of eyeballs. They also have a very loyal following. They also have a lot of that stuff going on.
Do you think about it like a coach?
Well, you're a CEO, chief executive officer. Dana is a chief executive officer. Yes, that's the job of a CEO. So what you're saying is you can't handle somebody that is a, creative at that level. It's only creatives that are very much a following the rules and guidelines. That's totally fine. You're setting the tone. For example, in the Yankees, I'm a Yankees owner, okay? I'm a minority owner of the Yankees. What have the Yankees always been known for? Drama-free. They don't want this, they don't want that, they don't want that. No problem. You want to be a drama-free organization. Cool, totally get that. But the Bulls, Phil Jackson, he had no problem with that. That's a different model. He could get any of the talent and they coach. This isn't a shot at Daily Wire or Ben Shapiro. This is just since October 7th and even COVID, everybody's exposed walking around naked today. Everybody is naked today, okay? Okay, we know where you stand. 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 Cool. Now at least we know where everybody stands. And we get to pivot and adjust. However, having said that, the market is going to answer as well at the end of the day. The market's going to sit there and say, we are with Daily Wire or we're not with Daily Wire. The market's going to sit there and say, we're with Ben Shapiro. We're not with Tucker Carlson. But the market is saying what? We're with Tucker Carlson, questioning certain things. Tucker's blowing up. Tucker's growing. Tucker stuff is going all over the place. Why? Because maybe the market is also willing to question certain things that are just flat out weird.
Or maybe the market likes craziness and outrage and heat and...
You think Tucker is craziness, outrage, and heat?
100%.
So you think he's crazy?
I don't think he's crazy. I think when he goes to Russia and he's amazed by shopping carts, I think he's just lying to people. I think when he says food is cheaper in Russia, when it's not, for the ordinary Russian, it's 3, 4, 5 times more expensive.
Right.
I think he's misrepresenting reality.
But what I think you just did right there, what I just think you did right there, have you done a video reacting to that or no?
Yes.
And you broken down what he said?
Yes.
Guess what? I'm interested in that.
Okay.
And by the way, I don't have a problem with that, but I don't call that craziness.
You know what? I totally respect that you picked me up on that. It's not crazy. It's just misleading and misrepresenting.
But I enjoy listening to you.
Yeah.
I told you that. I called you.
Yeah,
I wanted to sign you. So it's not like this is a...
Yeah.
You need to know I see you as a talent.
I appreciate that.
But what I want is I want to hear you and I want to hear him.
Yeah.
That's how I get smarter,
That's
right?
fair.
This is why I've always liked in my business to have a board. Because in the board meeting, let's just say we got 7 board members, okay? I'm the CEO, okay? Guys, I have an idea. What's that? I want to do da-da-da-da-da, pa-pa-pa-pa-pa. Can you go to the next slide and we're going to do this on the next slide? And then all of a sudden I see 3 guys going like this. Next slide, next slide, next slide. Okay. Where are my blind spots? Well, I don't think this is going to work. Tell me why. Da-da-da-da-da. Good point. Let me write it up on the wall. Who else is with him? I also don't think it's going to work. Who else is with him? I also think so. Who else is with him? Also, shit, 4, 3. Who thinks this could work? I think it could work and da-da-da-da. Who else? Papa, how else? Okay, did anybody here change any of your minds? Well, that was actually a really good point. So now it's 3.5, 3.5. Let's hash it out. And then let's go, right? But for me to say, oh, you get out. Come on, man. I mean, you know, that's not freedom of speech. We were just about to get to a bottom of for us to clash of ideas uncomfortable. This is not easy. So to me, that's the difference, because I do think a Tucker plays a role, and I do think Ben plays a role. You know, I wanted to have both of them on, but Ben, you know, I've invited Ben. Ben, the last time I interviewed Ben was when he was in LA 7, 8 years ago. We had to sit down. He invited me. He's down the street. I wanted to have him on to do a couple debates. Ben doesn't come down to want to do debates, but I'd like to have these types of conversations to see what it takes place. I know he said no to Candace's request, because Candace's initial request was me moderating a debate with the two, and he says, why would I do that after he called us a daily Jewish wire and daily Israeli wire? By the way, good point. Go pick somebody else. But I wanted to see the debate. Now we're being told by Greenwald or whoever it was that came out saying the fact that they used that as a way to put a gag order on Candace. If any of that stuff comes out that's true, that's very deceptive and manipulative to use Twitter to get her to respond, to book a debate, and then to say later on that's a gag order. If it's true, would you agree that's a manipulative, deceptive way?
If it's true, of course.
Would you say it is, though?
Of course.
Well, let's find out what happens with the market.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Patrick, we're running out of time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. As you know, the last question we always ask before we go to locals, where we ask our supporters questions, is what's the one thing we're not talking about as a society that we really should be?
Before Patrick answers the final,
but I think we need to pay a little bit more attention to inventors and creators that came up with some solutions that would save us a lot of money.